Hey guys, today we're going to be replacing the rotors, calipers, and pads on my 76 280Z. I've already taken the wheel off, set up my tent, you know, gotta have that shade, it's Texas after all. I've already done the other side as well. So this is what the finished product will be with the new calipers, pads, and rotors. All I've got to do is bleed the system once I'm done, but in case anybody's wondering, here's the parts that I used. There's the right side for the rotors, left side which will be going on here in a second. The pads are Porterfield pads, part number. And the rotors, they're the Toyota 4x4 rotors. I already had them on, but went ahead and replaced them anyways just because I've been having some issues. These are essentially a bolt-on. There's just some minor trimming that has to be done on the dust shield, but you can look that up on your own if you want to know how to swap over to these from the factory ones. So here's the issue I was having. I was getting random hot spots on my rotor, and obviously this nasty groove that's only on one side. So went ahead and pulled the trigger, and I'm just swapping everything out to new. Hopefully that'll fix my issue. But this is essentially the exact same setup I already had. I love it. I love how it feels, except for whatever happened here. I don't know what's going on, but we'll go ahead and get started. So first thing I need to do over here is pull the dust cap. Now I just use a flathead for that, so just gonna jam it in there. Yeah, need both hands for this, hold on. So once you're able to get it in there, just crack it loose. Start playing with it all the way around until it will eventually just pop right off. So you'll see the cotter pin, the retention, nothing to hold the spindle nut in place. And once we pull this off, we'll find the spindle nut, which is a 27mm, by the way. So should have that one ready to go. Now I'm being a little aggressive with these cotter pins because I'm just gonna replace them with new ones. I recommend you do as well. They're cheap, so not something you want to cheap out on. Alright, give me some. So once you bend it to position, you can actually get it off easy. Just go ahead and do so. Pull it out. There's the old caliper that I pulled out at the other side. Just pull that out. Now, if you haven't done so, you've never worked on your car before, I would strongly recommend, if you're gonna go through this process, to order new wheel bearings. I've already installed them on mine a while back. You're gonna be here, you're gonna have to take them off. All you're really gonna need is a grease packer for them, and the new bearings, they'll come off once you take everything out. You'll see in a minute. And it's just while you're here, might as well get it done. if you have the factory ones that came with your car. Now I'm just gonna leave this here open, ready to go. Actually, I'm gonna put the cap slightly over it just to keep any dirt out of there, because now what we're gonna do is take the actual caliper off. Now, as you can see, it was time for me to place my pads anyways, so I'm wondering if that was also part of my issue, but I don't know. It was just really odd. I was getting hot spots on the other, only on the passenger side, and there were just little odd hot spots, so I figured I'd replace everything. So to start off, all I'm gonna do is break this nut off. It should be a 10 on the brake line. Then there's these two 17mm bolts that need to come off in order to remove the caliper. So I'm gonna go ahead and crack those loose. I'll pause the video because I'm gonna need both hands. And it's pretty straightforward. Just break those three things loose and I'll come back when that's done. Oh, and in case anybody's wondering, yes, I am running the T3 control arm, the GTX2s, I think is what they're called. Love them. Wonderful. Gives me plenty of adjustment. Even though my car's in stock height, I plan on going lower, so this is why I bought those, put them on the car. But yeah, back in a sec. Oh, just like to add, always use a line wrench whenever breaking the brake lines, whenever you're cracking them loose, simply because the last thing you want to do is strip those and have to replace the line because you use the regular box end. So pro tip, always go with a line wrench. Alright, so once everything's nice and loose, already taking the bottom one off, the brake caliper. So it's just a matter of loosening up the top one. All the way, and out she comes. Probably be rebuilding this set for later use, so drips a little brake fluid on it. It's whatever. Have them powder coat it eventually. So that's all there is to that. So now we can continue over here. Take this. Take this off again. Grab your 27mm. This was slightly loose. Shouldn't have been that loose. We'll go over the torquing procedure once it's time, but FSM says 22 pounds, 22 foot-pounds, then rotate. Put it down on the napkins so it doesn't get dirty. 22 pounds, then rotate both ways to seat the bearing properly, then back it off 60 degrees. That's for the nut. Then put the the cotter pin on the retaining nut, and that's all there is to it. So this is loose now. Pop right off. So it should be easier with two hands, but okay. There she is. Bearings still look okay. Might be replacing them actually. soon. Still have a few more miles in them. But anyways, on to the project at hand. Here's the front bearing. Just gonna shove my finger in there to put it, take it out, just where it goes. Set this down on the napkin as well. Then we'll get on with the fun part. Breaking these loose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out. Just gonna put it here where the old one. The other one. Set it down. Doesn't matter how greasy I get this, because this is all going away. Those are 17s. I'm gonna use my impact. Gonna make quick work of them. So here's my trusty torque wrench to measure spindle nut. Anyways, so 17. Oh, I take it back. These are not 17s. Interesting. The other side were. So no big deal. Just find the right size. And these were 14s on this side. Okay. Take that off. Almost no effort. A little concerning. Should be a little more pressure there, but oh well. It's a good thing I was taking everything off, huh? Now, since I've already taken these off before, they're not as stuck as factory ones would be. So I remember when I first took these off, I had to beat the crap out of them to separate them from the hub. So old, new. Just gonna inspect this. Sure there's no damage, threads. Anyways, you want to keep it from getting any dirt inside where the bearings would go, because that's only going to absolutely destroy your bearings. Now, standard procedure. I'm gonna pause. Clean the calipers and rotors with brake cleaner. Get all the lube and grease off of them. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Once you get everything cleaned up, move on to the assembly part. It's just a matter of lining the holes for it to go back together. Easy peasy. Always start these by hand. Before you put any kind of impact on them. Keeps you from accidentally cross-threading these, and then you're having to find a new hub. So just go in the cross pattern like you would your lug nuts. And gonna check the torque on them. Put them on the car. Alright, once you check your torques, come back, put it all back together. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Grab your bearing and the cap. Shove that in there. Shove this in there. And like I mentioned earlier, normally I'd be repacking the bearings and replacing them, but I've already done that. Lines are still together. Here comes that fun bit where we put the nut together. I never use an impact to put these on. Over tighten them can and will destroy your bearings, cause them to seize up, and that's not a fun day for anyone. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the 27. Just gonna slightly tighten them by hand, just to make sure it's snug. Then we come back with the torque wrench. And actually put a measurement on this. About there, just over 20 pounds. And rotate both ways to set the bearing. Check the torque on it again. Now, as per FSM, back it off about 60 degrees. Say it's roughly about a quarter of a turn. As you do so, check again. There's no binding, no grinding, and then there's no play. And this part is done. So put the retaining nut on there and a new cotter pin. Bend it into place. It's not going anywhere. Push the dust cap back in. Just give it a little tap. Now, what I'm going to do is get the caliper started on the hard line. It doesn't have really a whole lot of play. It doesn't really have any. It's not supposed to have any play actually. So I'll get it started on the caliper. Since it doesn't have any pads and it's retracted all the way in. Once I get it started on the caliper, then just rotate it into place. Find the mounting bolts and put the bolts to hold it in place. For that I'll need both hands, so be back guys. Once you have everything tightened up, tighten down the line, the brake line with the line wrench. Again, don't use an open box end. That's how you strip it. That's how you make a job harder for yourself later. Caliper is mounted. It's on there solid. No rubbing, no grinding. Not that there should be, but always check. Then, brake hardware, 2 pins. And nice brand new brake pads. This is gonna make one happy me once it's all said and done. Slide them into place. 1, 2. Slide the pins into place. Always make sure that the little hole goes towards the inside of the car. Slightly encourage it into place. Do the bottom one, but for the bottom one, when you slide her in, you have to have this little W brace in place. Now the way this goes is there's 2 sides. Grab it like this, make sure that this goes towards the pin, then it's supposed to slide into this hole right there. Boom, one side in, then you gotta do the other. That's where it gets fun. Could do it like me, do it the lacy way, then just come back later with a pair of pliers and set it where it needs to go, or you could try to get it the right time, the right way first time around, not have to deal with it later. But looks like I'm gonna have to do it the lacy way and come back. Alright, and that's how it's supposed to look like when it's done. So everything is nice and set. Oh, actually, I take that back. Forgot about the back pin, which is this little fellow. So this goes like this, going through. Oh gosh. So the way I do these is get one through the hole. Make sure there's also no binding in here. put them into the hole, slightly rotate them with the pin itself, get them through both, then use a pair of pliers, just kind of loop it in, set it, make sure it's going through both sides, and that's all there is to it, fellas. Thanks again.